Okay.
You want to move the mic closer?
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi. I am Diana Savitsky. I'm a pediatric emergency physician, and I'm going to talk to you today with my crew about why you should be sifting through pebbles in the shoe to alleviate frustrations in your emergency department. So I'm a member of the SAEM Wellness Committee. I also work through ASEP. I'm the chair of the wellness section and co-chair of our hospital-wide well-being committee, as well as director of wellness in the ED. And my colleagues, Yash over here is the director of emergency medicine ultrasound. He's the new program director of our ultrasound fellowship. Suchi Dada is our research director, and Allie Reens is our medical director for the pediatric emergency department, so she represents leadership in our department. And of course, we have no disclosures. Nothing to disclose. I had to update this slide because Stanford actually revamped and sort of renamed their model of, say, well-being. They used to call it professional fulfillment. They now call it occupational well-being. So I just wanted to make sure this was up to date, but the concepts are still the same. So when you think of wellness, you might be thinking of, I think, the two most common ideas of what wellness is. So you might be thinking of your mindfulness, meditation, yoga, like always improving yourself. You might be thinking of attending social events and bonding with your colleagues, getting to know them better. And these are perfectly good practices. But as you can see with the Stanford model of occupational well-being, they're not the only drivers. And I had a friend in my fellowship who, when she found out that I'm interested in working in this academic well-being space, it was like a little bit of a dagger in my heart because she would tell me over and over, I don't really care about mindfulness or yoga, and I don't really care that the hospital she works at would send her to a Broadway show essentially for free. She said to me, I only really care if things, like run better or work better, make my workday better. And it took me, I think, a few years for that to sit with me. And ultimately we came to this conclusion that if we work on our workplace efficiency or efficiency of practice, this really contributes to a lot of our well-being. And so that this third aspect of occupational well-being really speaks to her. So in RED, we have a wellness committee. And so we had a department meeting where we talked about, like, wouldn't it be nice if we had a forum to talk about little things that come up that frustrate us, work on fixing them. So Yash over here, he told us this story about when he went looking for a COVID swab that he had to do for an admission. It's not that he needed it for the admission. And it took him about 15 minutes to find it within the department, and it really wasted his time, expended his energy, and we really thought, not being able to find a COVID swab so easily, if that could just set us sort of off the edge, that's really silly. And so this concept of fixing pebbles in order to reduce burnout, this isn't a novel concept. This article over here from the AMA, so they described an experience that like another health system had, where they actually asked their physicians once a year. The C-suite went and sat with all the physicians and they asked them, what are your frustrating pebbles? So we actually took this idea and we ran with it. We expanded it to something much more, larger, an ongoing opportunity to submit these pebbles, and that really helps our physicians have a voice in their daily work experience. Let me make sure you understand what a pebble is. So a pebble problem is something small yet significant and frustrating, but relatively easy to fix. And the key point is the relatively easy to fix. There's lots of problems. Everybody, administrators, leadership, they want to know about it, but this project works really well when you can identify the things that you know are easier to fix. And solving these pebble problems can lead to a positive impact in your workday, and then we're going to walk you through how we did it.
Yeah, so I mean, when you get frustrated during your shift, what do? When something tiny bothers you, you carry it with you. You might send an email to your boss. You might forget about it and then remember it again when it happens again. And then you're like, damn, I got angry again about the same thing. Sometimes it's tiny things like, why do I have to walk like to the entire different area of a hospital to pick up a suture that I need or something like that. And you think about those things. And we wanted to come up with a way of protocolizing this method of capturing all these frustrations. And so when we first kind of thought of this project, and I told Diana about my frustration about that COVID swab, she mentioned this Pebbles idea to me, and we're like, we should make this and modernize it. And so we created a task force. Me, Diana were the first people on it, and then we invited everybody else who was a stakeholder onto it. Then we sent out like a pilot idea, pilot submission survey. Hey, what are the current frustrations you have? And keep it simple, things that really bother you on your shift. And then we started creating a way of collecting these surveys in real time. So we created a QR code that we basically posted kind of everywhere. And we started meeting about it. And then we started reporting our solutions throughout the process as we were doing these things. So, this was our way of capturing and modernizing this process of collecting your frustrations and solving them.
All right. Which one's closer? Maybe this one. All right. So the first thing you have to do to tackle the pebbles in your shoe is to assemble your team. So it's very important to have leadership buy-in because they set the top-down influence. And this is really, as Diana said, something that your leaders should be caring about. This is literally their job, is to help make things function. So that's probably the most critical thing, is to have leadership buy-in. That's number one. Next, you're going to need to have clinical frontline staff, because they are going to be the ones who are helping with the solutions and really figuring out, okay, this is going to work or this isn't going to work, and this isn't really a problem, or yeah, this is a huge problem. I'm so glad someone put this pebble in. I wasn't going to think of that myself. In addition, you need some admin people on your team to keep the records of the pebbles and to generally help, accomplish the administrative type tasks, because there are certain things that, maybe a physician doesn't need to be the one to do these things. So important to have administrating. And then as we know, we work very closely with our nursing colleagues. So very important to get them on board, to have someone from nursing as well. And we have a supply person. A lot of the pebbles end up being kind of small inventory type things, like where are the COVID swabs kept, for example. We'll give you other examples as well. But our supply guy, that's Nick, he ends up solving a lot of our problems, because a lot of it is this kind of problem.
And so how do you modernize this? Well, one of the solutions we came up with was to basically have QR codes. Before this, we would have to log into our emails, which for us takes about 3 or 4 things. We got to open up the browser, we got to log in. Then sometimes it asks for a second code, like a 2-step verification. And you got to send an email. Too long. We created this very simple survey that basically asks one question. You use your phone or the hospital provided phone and you scan it, and it pops up the survey. And the first question it asks is, what frustrated you just now? And, as we kind of develop this survey more, we realized that maybe we should ask a little bit more detail. But the goal of it is to be truly anonymous. We don't really care about who submitted the pebble unless they really want to be identified. We want it to be a true capture of frustration that bothered somebody. And sometimes, how you're reluctant to share what bothered you because you might not want to be identified or be associated with that issue. Well, this lets us kind of capture that and not have to worry about who's submitting it. And it does kind of ask where you're working, what your role is. But it doesn't get into more than that unless you voluntarily share that information. And so this was a way of kind of making it easy. And the QR codes are pasted everywhere accessible. Diana went through every computer, put them on there, and they're very easy to access. And you could do this with any software. We use Qualtrics right now to collect our surveys, but we also have RedCap to manage the database. You can use SurveyMonkey. There's Google Forms. You could even use Excel, but to collect your survey, you probably want to use something like Google Forms or automate it somehow. And when we get a survey submitted, we get an email. Each of us that is the key stakeholder, whether it's Diana, me, the nursing leadership, Nick, our supply lead, all of us get an email blast. And if it's something that we can solve right away while we're working, the nursing manager will come up to us and be like, hey, you submitted a pebble, or somebody submitted a pebble about this Dragon mic not working. Where is it? Okay, let me fix it right now. Nick, sometimes, there's no otoscopes or something's happening with the otoscopes. They would come and fix it right away, right? So it's very easy to make it happen. as opposed to worrying about sending an email or something else, right?
These are some examples. In the interest of time, we won't really go through all of them, but Yash kind of mentioned the otoscope, the dragon dictation, some other equipment issues. And honestly, the thing that I think makes Pebble so cool is that it can kind of infiltrate into a lot of different domains, including patient safety, because some of these may have implications for keeping our patients even safer.
Yeah, so once the pebbles are submitted, we take ownership of them. Each of us kind of assign ourselves to something that we can solve, whether it's a supply lead, then Nick will take over it. Our nursing manager will take over ones that are nursing related. But we also sort them into categories to see what's like something, what's what we consider a green pebble, something that's really easy to solve within 6 weeks. We can get a new otoscope right away. We can get chairs. The first thing that I remember when I walked in, also when we started this project, was we walked into an area and there were no chairs. Somehow all the chairs of all of our workstations disappeared. And so we submitted a Pebble. Nick tracked down every single chair. They were being used for patients. They were being used for other things. And then we brought them back to our stations, and that problem was solved relatively quickly, right? New workstations, those kinds of things. What's a large Pebble? What's a boulder? What we consider something that we can't solve right away for whatever reason. We needed a new area of the hospital. That took years for it to kind of happen. So that's something that we push down the line and we'll say, we're not really going to address this problem right now. We understand your frustration with it, but for this reason, we can't do it. And so that's how we sort these pebbles out ourselves, and we assign each other roles to fix them.
All right, so this WebEx meeting, this is where the magic happens. We have bi-monthly meetings, Pebbles meetings, in order to talk about the Pebbles. We assign the owners and we try to come up with the solutions. And I can't stress this enough that when you have a physical meeting on your calendar, it creates a lot of accountability. When it's just like a back and forth email, it could get really lost, to the sender or the receiver. And I feel like getting everyone together at one place, it makes it simplified for leadership. They only have to deal with it once or twice a month, and we can kind of create a lot more progress that way. So I really would stress having a meeting about it. And another thing that's important is that you have regular clinicians that are working, that experience the frustrations, that can speak about the Pebbles. Having them present in the meeting is among the most important. When an administrator reads a Pebble problem that's submitted, they might say, I don't know what that is, or they might think they know what it is, and then once we talk about it, and as the clinicians, we can say, no, this is what it is, or, oh, didn't we create like a new L&D process, it's intended for this, but we're telling them in reality this is not happening. So it's really important to have these meetings.
And then you got to keep track of it. You got to keep track of your database, right? So we use RedCap. You can use an Excel spreadsheet, but RedCap for us makes it easier for us to kind of assign roles. You can see how we have each category of Pebble, who's taking care of it, what was done, when the project was started, when it was solved, and what the solution was. And so this kind of keeps us accountable too. It also is good for data tracking. We can say, hey, look, we made these cool graphs that are going to come up later, right? But this is not at all what people want to see. They don't want to see a database. So we move on to the next step.
Yes, this is a sexier version, a better representation of a database. Not really, but yeah, it's much cooler to look at, which is, we call it a stoplight report, which is so much cooler sounding than a database of Excel sheets. So this is an example of a stoplight report. We generate this about every 3 months or so, and it is pretty obvious. It's very intuitive, right? The green are the pebbles next to the green light are the ones that we've completed. The ones in yellow are in progress, things that we can actually address, versus the red ones, which are the boulders, the more difficult ones to address or accomplish. After generating these reports, we share them pretty widely with our staff, and we present them at the staff meeting. And just in case, somebody misses the staff meeting or they miss this email, we also print them out, we laminate them, and then we put them up strategically next to the QR codes for submitting the Pebbles. So as our frontline workers are scanning that code and submitting their Pebbles, they're able to see what kind of progress we've made. So, it elicits more of a buy-in from them to actually be involved and interact with this project.
Yeah, so I mean, that's great. We have a stoplight report that shows some things, but then we actually send pictures too. If sometimes we send out, even like, oh, in the staff meeting, we present the a stoplight report. Well, how do we know this actually got accomplished? The first thing we were like, oh, there's no otoscopes for their doctors to use anywhere nearby. Well, now there's a picture showing you exactly where they are. We bought new ones. Oh, we can't find the 20 gauge angiocats anywhere. Our Nick put bright yellow stickers that showed exactly where they are, and we sent the pictures. And we made them more widely available. Same thing with everything else. We're like, oh, we don't know where the Blakemore is. What if we have it's really crazy GI blade? He labeled every single closet, so we knew exactly where they were, and we sent these pictures out as evidence of the accomplishments of this project. And so, we got all this data, and you can see that a majority of the submissions were actually green pebbles. People recognized that this project was meant to solve simple things, and they submitted that, right? And it's a pretty good distribution. We got a fairly fair amount of green pebbles. We got a decent amount of yellow pebbles, and then red boulders weren't that many. So people were like, oh, we're not going to submit things that are really bothering us. Or maybe they realized that there weren't that many red boulders. And we accomplished a lot. Within the first iteration of this project, we solved about 75% of those pebbles relatively quickly, which was really good. And now it's even more. Now it's closer to like 90, right?
Yeah.
So we've been tackling this as we went along. And you can see that a majority of the things that most of us are frustrated about are things like equipment and supply. Why are things so far away? Why are things not where they need to be? IT tech, we didn't really have that many problems. We're lucky to have a pretty decent IT program. And then nursing clinical, issues with things like why are we still doing COVID swabs? Those things were there, and we had a great buy-in from our nursing leadership. And then process-related things like how can we simplify moving people to L&D? That kind of stuff also was involved. And you can see having a nice database makes it very easy for us to generate these graphs. So good idea to keep that in mind.
So the real purpose of this project was to improve our clinicians' well-being. And so we used a single question survey to ask our group about the impact this Pebbles project had on their personal well-being. We had a great response rate, about 75% responded, and overwhelmingly positive findings that this project was successful. I mean, only 2 people said it was slightly effective. So, it's great to have data like this, but really some things that the data can't capture are the fact that our clinicians now use the word pebble as a verb, like, oh my God, that just happened, I'm gonna pebble that. It's part of the culture, it's part of how they, interpret like something that they can do about these things. And just the sheer fact that we keep getting submissions, we're close to like 500 pebbles. It's actually getting overwhelming, but we have a lot of, data coming in. It just convinces me that this project is successful and that I should continue working on it. And I want to point out that, we're aiming to have this project be, rooted in a human factors engineering. The people who experience the problems, would know best how to solve them. And so it's very important that you get them involved, our clinicians, to, help redesign, say, the workflow. All these things make everything more successful. And, ultimately you get a greater sense of ownership of your work and a sense of autonomy. We're really excited about it.
This project has also been an absolute treasure trove of scholarly productivity. It's been kind of amazing, which has been great for me and our department and our crew. We've presented this at our institutional QI Day. We've presented at ASAP Research Forum, multiple didactics, various forms of it across multiple national conferences, ASAP, Pacific, sorry. I was joking. PAS was Pacific Atlantic Society, but it's the Pediatric Academic Society, and also here we are at SAEM. I think Diana's been invited, so word travels. Other departments in our institution are asking Diana to come speak, and they're incorporating this Pebbles project into their workflow. They're asking us to be a part of their scholarly productivity, so this like snowball effect across the country. Actually, Diana's been invited to speak 18 times this academic year so far, and so it's been incredible. And we just published this whole project. So check us out, look us up. This is our paper, very exciting. So yeah, it's been just such a boost to our departmental scholarly metrics. So it's been incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We're not done.
We're almost done. We're basically done. If anybody needs to know how to convince their leadership to buy into this, this is the sweet spot. This is where you want to be. We've talked about all the value it brings between scholarly activity, well-being, just operational effectiveness, efficiency, and it's very low cost. A lot of the platforms that we use are, RedCap is free, and these are things that people are supposed to be doing anyway. This is their job already, and so it's very high value and low cost.
So in conclusion, the one thing we want you to take away from hearing about this project is that the seemingly small changes can really end up becoming a massive impact for your department. We all have frustrations, and this project is a great outlet to get them addressed. So by removing the pebbles in your shoe, your team may have more improved efficiency of your practice and impact wellness. And if you'd like more resources, the QR code is a scan to a worksheet with a link to the manuscript, but it's really kind of ready for you to just fill out and start in your departments. Thanks, everyone. I know, yeah, I was gonna say, how much salary? But you're right. Not every department has it. I remember speaking to like an EM colleague through the ASAP wellness section in South Carolina. She said, "I don't have a supply person. It's generally this nurse who's already stretched thin that does every other aspect in the ED and supply." And you're right, that might be a luxury, but at least we're describing how beneficial this supply person is. It's like a gold mine.
Can I say something? The great thing about this project is that we may have very different pebbles than other departments in other regions, but it's very transferable to not only other regions in the country, but even to different disciplines. Diana has had inquiries from even like L&D to set this up. There was someone from like the finance department that wanted to set this up. I was telling my friend about it who's an NP. She wants to set it's very transferable and can really apply very broadly to anyone.
Yeah, if you don't have a nick, ask your chair who the next best person might be. They might know somebody who they can have. Maybe it's an administrative person who can take on a little bit more and just have a role that can be, hey, we need some things to buy, and can you be that buyer? So assign somebody, but there's always got to be one person who can do that kind of role if you need to.
And isn't that the point of these conferences where you learn about what people do at other institutions? You say they have an inventory dedicated person, and they're actually 24-hour, right? There's
Pretty
people at
close,
night.
yeah, 'cause-
So I don't know. I feel like you hear things, or you hear salary, and then you get matched because you hear that's what it's like at the other place. No, I'm saying you're right.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
love Nick.
You should tell your boss.
Ah, John, see, there you go.
Nice.
Nick is great though.
Nick is great.
Nick is great.
Any other questions?
questions? Thank you.
All right, I have one planted question. I just want to. I there was a department that in our hospital that started the project, and she kind of reached out to me and say I started the project. The QR codes are there. I am getting some Pebble submissions from the nurses, say in L&D, but the nurses and not so much the physicians. And, she was a little frustrated by that. And, my answer to that would be a couple things. So, are you maintaining communication with them and make sure they know, this project exists and you can get something out of it? Sometimes it requires a real tangible example. If you wanted to start this project, I would almost recommend anyone to think of one or two easy win pebbles that you could kind of fix automatically, fix right away. And that's like a proof of concept that they'll get it, they'll understand how to, extrapolate and come up with other things. So that things like that help, but also like the traffic stop rate report. If you're not really keeping up with that, they might think, oh, I don't know what comes of this. Maybe I don't need to keep submitting those pebbles. But I find that's probably like a common pitfall.
On shift, I also remind people when I see them getting frustrated, just pebble that. Just pebble that. Like, and it helps. 'Cause the more we repeat it, the more it kind of becomes it, right? So it's good.
And if you don't like the name, you could name it something else. Looking at you, Tim.
Thorn, whatever.
You could say, yeah,
Thorn in
things
your
that
side.
deflate your balloon. I'm going to balloon it.
It's a better prop, right?
Yeah. But thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.